Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Horror. I am your main host, Kevin Powers. I'm also the owner, operator, and all-around nice guy for Something Wicked Entertainment, in which we do podcasts, short films, feature films, a little bit of everything that goes here in and in between. We love to delve as much into the indie world as possible, but this podcast here delves deep into horror films from all different decades and subgenres. But this month we are doing a bunch of special episodes as we delve deep into the Halloween and October season. So you're going to see a wide variety of different films that we're focusing from different decades, some different genres and subgenres of horror to give everyone out there and kind of an idea of all the different types of stuff that they can see and hear from the horror genre. And tonight's film is a really classic horror film, as it is a really old one. And it is actually directed by Roger Corman, who, if you have been listening to the podcast, we dedicated a whole month of episodes to him because of his passing. This one is just one of the films that I wanted to highlight because I really enjoyed the film, but it is called A Bucket of Blood from Roger Corman. And to delve deep into this film with me, I have
a very old co-host to go along with the very old movie. Yeah, I know how this works.
Tim Adams is returning to our podcast.
I was 5 years old when this movie was made. Okay, folks, you can do the math.
So yes, me and Jim are going to delve deep into this classic film, of which I first of all will say that actually for me, I still really enjoy the film, surprisingly. So since you were only 5 years old when the movie was released.
That's not the first time I saw the movie, though. No, I saw it for the first time on the Monster Movie Matinee show that I grew up on. That I probably saw this around maybe in the early 60s. Sometime 62, 63, something like that. So, and I had grabbed it. I believe I saw this one before I saw Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh, okay.
But because they shot the two together, they shot this one, and then he turned right around and reused a lot of the sets, which he tended to do. He inherited these sets from a AIP had an old film, or a film that they shot, a low budget film called Pregnant in High School or something like that, or High School Mama or something like that. You know, it was one of those. So they said, here's $50,000, go make us a horror movie. And then he kept all those sets and turned right around and shot Little Shop of Horrors in like 3 days after. This one took 5. This was like a massive Corman film. It took 5 days to shoot this one. But I remember then I think it was those two together, because I think they always ran very close to one another on the Monster Movie show that I watched. All of a sudden, I was like, I like this guy. Whoever this guy is that's making these movies, because it's sort of a comedy, a black comedy.
It is. I think that's why it holds up really well.
Yeah.
So you're probably gonna hate me because I'm a recent fan of A Bucket of Blood. I've only seen it within the last maybe.
Well, I think that's cool.
Years.
Yeah, that it's.
I missed this one for the longest time.
Yeah.
And then I started going back and watching a lot of Corman films. Before he passed away, I kind of delved into a lot of his older films. And this was one of them because it stars Dick Miller, who I'm a fan of.
Well, that's me. I'm a Dick Miller guy all the way. Yes.
Yeah, and I didn't realize he was like the star of the movie.
Absolutely.
Like, dude, how did I miss him starring in this movie for so freaking long? I've been watching movies with Dick Miller in it for freaking decades, and I never realized.
Well, he only starred in 3 movies in his whole career. I mean, it's many. This guy's not. This guy did in excess of 100 films. But he starred in War of the Satellites. That's where I first saw him. That was the second monster movie I ever saw in my life. Was War of the Satellites. And then he Rock and Roll Confidential, I think it was. It was like a rock and roll film that Corman made, one of his early ones that he starred in. And then this one. He was always a supporting actor. And
always.
Everything he did, or cameo type acting or whatever. But yeah, I mean, he just showed up, and God, it seemed like about 50 or 60% of the films that I watched growing up on the monster side, I was like, man, I like this guy. And then, of course, as you know, I mean, in 2018, I got a chance to spend some time with him. at the Monsterama convention the year before he died. I mean, I'm grateful that I was able to finally catch up with him before that. And what a cool guy.
Yeah, I was envious of that for you.
Well, he said about Bucket of Blood, because we did talk about it a little bit when we talked, and he wished they'd had more money. He said he thought this could be a really, real classic film if they had given Roger some more money, because there was a lot of things that he felt they could have done with more than $50,000, which is just barely enough to pay for the film and the processing.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the critics, when this came out, the critics hailed his performance. It was one of the real positives that this film got from the big critics. They just thought he was brilliant, and he was.
And he is.
Of course,
for that.
Playing Walter Paisley, a little dim-witted. I don't want to say dim-witted because that's critical, but I mean, he wasn't all there. I mean, he was sort of slow.
Yeah.
And then he would play the character of a character called Walter Paisley in 4 more films. In a couple of other Corman films, and then a couple other films that were paying homage to it. So, I mean, that really became his signature character, I think,
Yeah, I know, which is why I felt so bad that I hadn't seen it up until like 5 or 6 years ago. I was like, because I was familiar with the Walter Paisley character, but I didn't know that it had originated in this film until like 5 or 6 years ago is when I first saw this.
Yeah.
And like I said, Rock and Roll Confidential is also one I own and I haven't bothered to watch yet because I have not delved.
Oh, now you'll have to.
Well, yeah, but I haven't delved deep into Roger Corman's non-horror films. Like I have a whole list of them because he did so many movies, but I have not delved deep into them yet.
Yeah.
But bringing back the Dick Miller, you bring up an aspect of the film that I actually really enjoyed this time watching it, is that you're right. Miller doesn't come off he's not dim-witted at all. He's a little simple compared to the other beatniks at the bar.
Very naive, and this is what makes this film so much fun.
It is
the beatnik thing, because Charles Griffith was the writer on the film. Charles was on another planet of his own. I mean, I'm saying that in a good way because he wrote some brilliant scripts for Corman, far better than Corman deserved. I mean, for the money he made no money doing this. He's the one that came up with the idea. He and Corman started bar hopping to all of these, these beatnik coffee houses popped up all over the place in the 50s. Now that's a little before me, folks. Just a little bit. I wasn't hanging out in coffee houses at this time. Unless my parents took me to them. But I mean, the whole beatnik thing sort of preceded the hippie thing.
Yeah,
I was more in the hippie thing. That was more my age. But I mean, they were getting spoofed on TV and all that stuff. And Griffith wanted to do something that really went after the commercialization of everything, the phoniness of the art scene. These high-end people that were into all of this weird pop art type stuff. I know pop art really technically came in the 60s with Andy Warhol, but it was this weird art movement. These people were so, I'm trying to think of the word I'm looking for here, hoity-toity, high and mighty.
It was.
And it was, it wasn't like the hippies where it was more natural and, not material. It was just the opposite. It was completely material, and they held it over people that, I could see art that you can't, and all that. And they're just getting into all this crazy crap.
Yeah, but this film, and when I rewatched it, I started to notice it because when I first saw it, I don't think I took into effect the whole the atmosphere and the beatnik culture that's depicted in the film. But when you rewatch it, you kind of realize just how much it's ingrained in these characters, and it makes them seem so much more alive.
Oh,
because you have these different aspects of beatnik culture. I was the main guy who's crap, I can't remember his name. Maxwell, who doesn't repeat
Julian Burton,
himself. He doesn't repeat himself because then it's I live in the present and I can't live in the past.
That's right. People, Paisley knew all his stuff
by heart.
He's got a great scene in there where he's quoting it, and a couple of them say, "Hey, look, man, he's quoting it." He says, "No, that doesn't mean anything to me. I don't, once I say it, it's said.
I don't think I noticed that the first couple times I've seen the film, but when I rewatched it specifically for the podcast, I
As a
realized,
kid, I didn't pick up on that, but
yeah,
yeah, as I saw it later on in years, it was like, oh, that's hilarious.
it's hilarious, but it's also really smart from a writer's perspective.
Oh yeah,
Because everything that, and I like this, and this is why I really enjoy the film a lot more now, is because that each one of the little beatniks and the different styles are
yep,
really present.
yes.
And they're different. Like the Maxwell looks down on the two that are always high the entire time.
Oh, those guys are great.
But there's just as much like the rest of them.
Yeah, yeah.
Or the guy who opens, not the guy, not Maxwell who opens up, but the one guy who's playing, who's also playing the instrument. I think it's halfway through the film. His poetry is
Oh
different
yes,
than
yeah.
Maxwell's, and it's like, wow.
And he actually was a musician who was he was just starting his solo career, but he started a folk group with two other guys called the Limelighters. You might have heard of those guys. They were big in the '60s. And
Oh my
so
God.
yeah, so I mean, so Corman helped launch that group too, I guess technically. But yeah, I mean it's so I'm trying to damn. There's a word that's stuck in my head. Um,
What's
I'm just trying. They're just they're so phony, so hypocritical. But now there's another word I'm looking for here. But I mean, when you listen to what as an adult, I had then listening to the lyrics of what they were singing,
Mhm.
or the poetry that they were doing. It's like, oh, what crap this is. I mean,
Yes, but beatniks. And the thing is, I have a couple, and the only reason why I know what the hell a beatnik is because I actually have a couple books on that whole culture sitting on
oh
my
yeah,
shelf because that's a culture that passed me by way before my time.
oh yeah. No, it was before my time.
Yeah,
I mean,
but it's an
Jack
interesting little subculture. It's like
Yeah,
learning about
read Jack Kerouac, folks. If you want to know about
Yes.
beatniks, he writes a lot about the beatnik culture.
Yes, yes. And you get into that, and I will say, watch this film because it's a really nice depiction of that
It is,
culture.
yeah. I
And
mean,
then
this kind of stuff, this is not movie stuff you're seeing here. There really were coffee houses like that did that kind of thing for, well, up until the hippies sort of came in and started doing the open mic stuff, and all that. But that's basically what this is. It's open mics in the '50s.
Yeah.
Which had never been done before. I mean, it was just to go up there and, wow, we don't care, man, what you do, just stream of consciousness, just let it grow,
Yeah. And then of course you have
It's
like
total nonsense.
well, yeah, and then you have the visual art behind them, which is how we get into the Walter Paisley sculpting
This is,
aspect. of the film.
it's the crux of the film. It's great.
Well, it's interesting because you see all the poetry and stuff going on, but also
Yeah.
in the background you see the sculpture, paintings, and all that kind of
Yes.
stuff in the background, and all of a sudden, all these beatniks are what do you call it? Transfixed by Walter's
Yes.
kind of like anti-beatnik culture because the first thing he
Absolutely.
does is a cat with a knife stuck into it.
Yeah, he's got dead cat. What's the name of that, Walter? Dead cat. Oh,
Dead
that's
cat.
brilliant name for this. It was like,
It's not like trying to come up with some clever name or something.
Yeah.
It's exactly
no, that's
what
well,
it
Walter
is.
wouldn't know what to do. And I love that. It's this. I mean, that scene right off the bat. There's a cat stuck in his wall, folks. If you haven't seen this, I'm going to spoil it for you, but you got to go see this because it's a funny. And he's trying to find the cat, and it's like, and he's got this knife, big chef's knife, and says, "Okay, I'll cut you out," and boop, oops.
And there, folks, is where the dark comedy comes into
That's
play.
where it starts.
Because Walter is such an innocent person that's beginning.
Oh,
of
he's
the
so
film,
naive. Yeah,
and he's just trying to fit in with the people that he idolizes,
yeah.
never realizing how phony they really are until he becomes one of them. And those type of things are what I noticed this time around that I didn't notice before, and I think it makes the characters richer.
Oh, yeah,
More
absolutely.
interesting. Which is not what you expect from Roger Corman. I don't think anyone's going through watching the terror and trying to find out the deeper meaning behind the terror.
No.
I'm just saying.
No, in fact, Corman was a little hesitant when he read the script that Charles
Was
came
he?
up with because he said, if we can do a comedy or not. You know, comedy's hard to do, and it is. I mean, you know, anyone's made any films or written a play or anything like that, it's the hardest thing in the world to write is comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, but then he told in later interviews, he said, but you know, this film set the table for movies like The Terror and Comedy of Terrors and some of the ones he did when he got into the Poe stuff because it worked so well. And Little Shop of Horrors. I mean,
And Little Shop of Horrors,
definitely. You know, pretentious. The word I'm looking for is pretentious. That's what these people were. I knew it began with a P.
Yes, that's the word.
Finally popped into my head. Pretentious. Yes. I mean, and Griffith is brutal in the way he portrays these people in the script.
And the thing I like I think I like his Poe's not Poe's. You got me thinking about Roger Corman's Poe films now. Roger Corman's early films is how they almost seem like not as it's not refined, not as almost more innocent, because like when you watch horrors, you enjoy the hell out of that, surprisingly, because it works. And to be honest with you, Little Shop of Horrors shouldn't work.
No, it shouldn't. It shouldn't. You know, as a kid, I mean, I remember my sister and I watching it. My sister's 2 years younger than me. You know, so she was probably about like 6 years old. I was probably about 8.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing I cued in on was there were 2 characters in there that were spoofing Dragnet. And, you know, my folks loved Dragnet, so we were watching the old Dragnet shows all the time. And I'm like, he sounds like Jack, you know, he sounds like, you know, Joe Friday. Oh my God. You know, stuff like that. So, I mean, even as a kid, I picked up on some of that stuff. And of course, in that film, Dick Miller as a character walks around eating flowers. You know, he's a connoisseur of flowers.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, I didn't think about the Dragnet reference until you said it. As many times as I've seen Little Shop.
Oh yeah, man. Because I used to quote it. You know, growing up, I was the class clown, and so I loved that sequence in there where he was describing his nephew dying because he was playing with matches and all that, and I knew it by word for word. So I'd go to school and I would tell him that people, that was one of my routines. They loved that. It's oh man, that was so funny.
Oh my God!
But anyway, that's for another show.
Yes, I'll have to put Little Shop on the list too. Yeah. I love Little Shop of Horrors, and that was probably my first Corman film as a kid.
For a lot of people, I think it was.
Yeah, because I grew up black and white movies. There's only 2 in my house: Night of the Living Dead and Little Shop of Horrors. Those were the 2 that my mother had purchased, like a really, really crappy VHS copy. So I probably saw those 2 movies.
Well, they were all in the public domain, so you never knew what you were going to get.
I didn't grow up with a lot of those type of black and white movies.
But they were great because you didn't have to adjust the antenna, so they just stayed fixed. Even if they looked crappy, they stayed crappy the whole way. So
crap. Oh, Jesus.
We were living in the Stone Age back then, I'll tell you.
We were, Jim. We were. Oh, my God.
Be kind. Rewind. You got to rewind it. You remember the first time I got a DVD, kept thinking, I got to rewind this. It was like, no, I don't.
Oh, Jesus.
We're so conditioned.
Yeah, we are so conditioned, which is why I like to bring back these older films like this. And of course, it's always much more fun to talk about these older films with you, because you and we're like almost different generations, but me and you both grew up watching these damn movies.
We are different generations, Kevin. Yes.
There's only like a decade in between us.
Yeah, there's not much. Maybe a couple decades, but whatever. Yeah.
But the thing is, my parents grew up on these films, therefore I grew up on these films.
Yeah, well, that was me. I mean, my parents were the ones that introduced me to monster movies. So
yeah, I mean,
the torch was passed down the line.
I wish I could remember to be honest with you, I wish I could remember the guy who was the horror host that I grew up watching on the USA Network. Who I can't think his name was Captain something, but I can't think of it.
Oh man, I should know that. Yeah, because I remember watching. Well, let's see, I watched a couple of them. Rhonda Shear had him show with Gilbert Gottfried.
I knew of Gilbert Gottfried,
but it wasn't all horror movies. It was all kinds of weird cult films.
Yeah. But
we watched it for Rhonda Shear because she was fun to look at. I'm trying to think. Yeah, the early days of USA, because all that early cable stuff I remember pretty well. But they did have a horror host, but I cannot think of who it is.
I
either.
can't think of him. I kept thinking of it like he's a captain. He used to have a cape or some shit, and I can't think of who the hell.
Yeah, I think you're right. I remember. Yeah, that when you said captain, it was like, but it wasn't Captain Planet. That was something else.
No Captain Planet. But I kind of it pains me. This is where I watched a lot of Corman films as well as on the creature features type of show.
Oh yeah.
And that's why I still have a huge love of these type of films, and why I go back and try to explore movies that I missed when I was growing up. And A Bucket of Blood was one of those. Although, which surprisingly, most of Corman's other films that he both produced and directed were not movies I missed growing up. It's so weird. It was so random. To be honest with you, I watched a lot of Corman movies that I now know are Corman movies, but what I didn't watch a lot of is the Universal films, and I didn't watch a lot of the Hammer films until I got much, much, much older. And
Hammer, I was like just getting into junior high. I mean, some of them started slipping over. They were starting to come over from England, and so this was probably in the late 60s, and oh man, they changed my life. I mean, oh my God.
I've only been watching Hammer films for maybe 10, 15 years, dude. I came in in Hammer.
Yeah.
Really late. Yeah. It may have been a little longer than 15 years, but right when Blu-rays were coming out is when I started to watch Hammer films.
Oh man.
Yeah, it pains me to realize that I grew up not watching Hammer films, and I didn't like Universal films. I didn't watch those either until about 20 years ago.
I can answer your question now.
Who is it?
Commander USA.
That's it, Commander USA. Oh my God, thank you so much. That's been bothering me for years.
Jim Hendricks. I had to look it up, folks. I confess, I had to look it up because then I was like, I know this guy. I remember this guy. And yes, he indeed did have a cape.
Dude, I can see him as clear as day. I watched his show religiously as a kid.
It was a great. USA did some really cool stuff back then. Yeah,
that's how I watched everything. I have a love for these older movies because of him and his show.
I mean, mine was Baron Damone. We had three of them, or two of them. I mean, in Syracuse, Baron Damone, who I got to meet in person, and I got to be on his TV show. With my Cub Scout troop, which was, I mean, that was like the highlight of my life. I still think about that. I can't even remember the other kids who were in the Cub Scout troop, but boy, I do remember that show being on that first time I ever was on TV, and that was a big thing in the 60s. And then we had another guy called Dr. E. Nick Whitty, which you never really saw. You just saw his hand. He was sitting in this big chair, and his hand would come onto the screen, and he would gesture a lot, but you never saw his face.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean he was the monster movie matinee guy. Baron Damone was Baron Damone's like chiller theater or whatever.
Okay.
And he had a weekday afternoon show for kids. So fun stuff.
But
yeah, I mean these horror hosts. I mean, what would we have done without them? I mean, they're the ones.
I have no idea.
I mean, these movies would have just gone unnoticed. TV saved a lot of these movies, especially like the old American International films. And stuff like that. I mean, and so Bucket of Blood didn't get shown a whole lot, except by little TV stations, because it did end up going, like a lot of Roger's films went into the public domain pretty quickly because they, one thing Roger didn't have were legal people that could protect him from that sort of thing. I mean, he made all his money, so he didn't care.
Yeah, I like that. He didn't care. He would now if
the networks would never dream of showing a public domain film, so they leave it to the little local stations. So if you're in the right place, you might get to catch it.
That makes more sense now.
Yeah.
I did not know that. But
it was crazy back then. If this is pre-cable, folks. I mean, we are talking the true Stone Age here. Where you had to get everything on an antenna.
Oh my God.
Oh my God! How did we survive those days? I don't know.
How are the younger generation surviving?
We only had basically three networks. So there's only three, and then occasionally, I think, we had three. I had three stations out of Syracuse that I watched, and I think they had one little indie station that was a little hard to get because they were like transmitting a signal about as strong as to get outside of their parking lot. But it was, and then if you turned your antenna a certain way, you could get some other cities that had little stations. But that was crazy times, and I was into that stuff. So my parents just said, "We're leaving it to you. You find us the station. We're just going to watch."
Pretty much. I mean, my parents were the same way, except for they made me be the human antenna sometimes.
Yes, that worked very well too.
Go stand over there and just turn it a little bit more.
Right. Just stay there. Yeah. No remotes. I don't think we got our first remote until I was in high school.
Oh, Jesus. I was that too. Go change the channel.
Yeah.
But getting back to Bucket of Blood.
Oh, yeah, we got to talk about it. Are they going to ever talk about that movie? Yeah. Okay.
We started off talking about Bucket of Blood, but for those who have not seen A Bucket of Blood, Walter Paisley, played by Dick Miller, is an aspiring artist,
a sculptor, specifically a sculptor. He's got this big pile of clay in his old rundown little apartment that he lives in.
Yeah, and he's held onto this clay forever with no inspiration until he accidentally kills the cat.
Wow! I'll do the sound effects. Yeah.
Okay. But the thing I don't think I ever noticed until I recently watched it is that after he kills the cat, the first thing that he thinks about is he starts hearing all the voices from the poets and stuff he's just been listening to, and that's how he gets his inspiration to actually sculpt the cat.
Yes.
So to speak.
Well, he's got a crush on the gal who's sort of hanging out with the owner of the coffee house. I don't think they're married. I don't know if they're really officially boyfriend and girlfriend. But he had a thing for her. I did. I was in love with this woman, Barbara Morris. And a lot of us guys that, growing up watching her, she was, oh my God, she was the ultimate girl next door. I mean, she's the guy. Or not the guy, but she's the gal that you want to bring home to mom and say, "This is the gal I'm marrying. I know you're going to love her," because she was just beautiful. She was struck down way too soon. Died of cancer in the mid-70s. But
oh shit, okay.
She just had this wholesome beauty about her that was just unbelievable.
Well,
and she did a lot of Rogers films.
Well, she's the only one who comes off as being authentic in this film. And
she's the only one that's decent. That's right.
Not just decent, but authentic as an artist. She sees stuff
true
in Walter that no one else does at first.
That's right.
And she encourages him. And I think that aspect is what really still carries a lot of the film.
Oh, yeah.
Because with all these beatniks, and she could be a beatnik too, but she's the only one who comes off as being an authentic, not pretentious, using your word.
That's right. No, she wasn't pretentious at all. And she was, she was an artist. She's out whenever she's seen in the coffee house, she's sketching someone, either the artist that's up on stage performing or whatever.
Yep.
And Walter wants to be able to get on her level, pretty much, because they're sort of. I mean, it's not like they abuse him, but they look down on him.
They look down on him because he's the bus boy.
Yeah, he's the bus boy.
And he's not a beatnik. He's not an artist. He's the bus.
No.
Which is why when he does his first actual killing, the lady who belittles him, it hits hard because she hasn't been there the whole film. I can't remember her name. I wrote it down somewhere. But she's the one who's been away, the model that's been away for a very long time. And she says she's a real artist because she's a model. And she looks down on Walter and can't believe that the bus boy could ever be a real artist.
Oh, Alice. Yeah.
Alice, thank you.
Yeah, and I don't know the actor. Judy Bamber is the actress. I could find nothing on her. So just this may have been the only film she ever did. I don't know. I don't remember. I mean, she sort of looks like a lot of the blondes that we saw in the late 50s, early 60s. But
she goes by many different names.
Yeah, it could have been.
But that's the second first person he kills, which is the undercover cop who's overzealous and almost is an innocent kill. Like he
goes on to become one of the big game show hosts of all time. Yeah, Bert Convy.
Yep.
Where would Tattletales be without this guy? I almost didn't recognize him for the longest time. Of course, as a kid, I didn't know him because Burt he was just getting started in his career.
Yeah, I had to look him up.
But the voice gives him away.
I had to look him up because I was like, why do I know this guy?
Yeah, because you probably, any game show of the 70s or whatever, he did a bunch of them.
Yeah, unfortunately, I watched way too many game shows growing up.
And he's another one we lost. He had brain cancer and died.
I didn't know that either. Damn.
Yeah. He was married to Joyce Bulifant, who we saw in a lot of game shows. But yeah, he was like maybe late 40s or something. It was quite a shock. I mean, probably the late 70s when he passed away, somewhere around there.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I hated it because he was popular. I mean, we liked the guy. And of course, I watched a lot of game shows growing up. That's all that was on, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. I can go back and tell you, I watched that. I grew up on game shows, and I will admit that I still watch Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune occasionally. I don't watch any of the other ones, but I still watch those. So
there's a few. Yeah, there's a few.
Unless you call game shows on Netflix game shows.
I take that back. He passed away in 1991. He was 57 years old. I was
57. Still, that's young, dude. That's still.
Oh yeah, no, I mean because he never aged. I mean, I can remember he was doing. I forgot what game show he was hosting the year he died. But I mean, yeah, he looked this. He was like Bob Barker. He never changed. Just had always just never aged. So
Bob Barker did.
So I always wished I could have gotten a game show. Then I would never age. Never look old again. Yeah.
All right, Pat Sajak or Alex Trebek.
Yeah, look at these guys. Yeah, Pat Sajak's older than me. I mean, that's damn old. Pat Sajak was in Vietnam. He was a Vietnam veteran. He's an old timer, man. I'll tell you.
You have good makeup artists when you're on a game show.
I guess so.
Oh Jesus! And we de-evolve so fast.
Yes. But yes, Bert Convey's character, the detective there has the best death by frying pan.
Yeah, but the thing is, I love the statue.
Oh God,
yeah. From him with the big cut right in his
forehead.
Ollie, dude, that's so brilliant.
What do you call it? What do you call that statue? Murdered man.
Oh my God! And you still feel for Walter at this point in the movie because
he's sympathetic through the whole movie, even though he's turning into this crazed killer.
I think the only time I don't think he gets sympathetic is when he chops off the stranger. When he chops off the head of the stranger. At that point, you can't go with him. You're fine. But when he kills the street guy, the street carpenter is the best.
Yes. That's brutal. That's brutal. Yeah,
that's a brutal murder. He chops his head off. The other ones were not. Even Alice's, he just chokes her.
Well, I think that's something. I think that was a point Griffith was trying to make in the script, is that he got corrupted by the pretentiousness and stuff of.
He got caught up.
I mean, no. Now he's fame. The first time, they have dead cat on display. There's a guy that wants to pay $500 for the dead cat because his wife has to have it. But he sits down at a table, and then I think it might have been Alice saying, "Why are we sitting at the same table as the busboy or whatever?" And it's like, "Hey, leave him alone. He's an artist now. He's one of us.
Yeah,
he's big time." And he dresses with the beret and the cigarette holder and, sort of puts on a little bit of an air, and it's like, uh-oh. And then that's just before he kills the guy with the saw, where it's like, yeah, he's crossed that line now. He's over the edge. Wow. Look out for this guy.
Well, the thing is, when you mentioned when he comes dressed up with the beret and everything, where he's trying to be like everyone else and he believes that that's how everyone else is.
Yes.
And it's almost comical because the next time we really get a look at him is he's dressed up for his art show like a normal.
Right.
Where you kind of take him serious again until, of course, the one girl who he has a crush on. What's her name?
Yes, Barbara Morris.
Before she kind of reveals her character name.
Carla.
Yes. Before Carla reveals that that she's not in love with him. She's in love. She loves his art.
Yes, that's
confusing these things together.
That's right.
Which I found very interesting. Of course,
well, he's like he's like a young guy. It's like a young boy's crush on a teacher or something, which when the teacher says, "Look, I don't feel that way about you," and it's heartbreaking, but it's one of those things in life. A lot of us have to go through growing up. I mean, it's just a part of growing up.
Yeah,
and I sort of I always felt like it was sort of that kind of scenario. Not as a kid when I first watched this, I didn't catch any of that kind of stuff. But
neither did I until now.
There's a lot of great little things in here that Griffith really was pretty good at making some points. And he doesn't hit you over the head with it, but they're just nice and subtle, and that's why these characters seem so real.
Yes. I think the only part for me that didn't seem as realistic as the rest of it was the ending. When you have all the beatniks chasing after Walter Paisley. And I'm wondering, why are these beatniks chasing after Walter?
Well, he betrayed them, basically. I mean, okay, folks, if you haven't seen the film, we are now going to spoil everything about it. A lot of this movie was inspired, and Griffith admitted he was inspired by the movie Mystery in the Wax Museum. Which was also remade as House of Wax a few years before this one was made, which involved a sculptor who loses the ability to sculpt in a fire, and so he takes the easy way out and kills people, and then covers them in wax and passes them off as wax sculptures. Well, then you've got Walter killing these, in this case, a cat, and then people, and then covering them in clay to pass them off as they're sculptures, but during, as is bound to happen, something happens where some of the clay falls off, and people realize there's a real person under this. Oh my God! I think that's, and all of a sudden he has betrayed their little club, or whatever you want to say. Oh my God! Now he's an anti-beatnik, so they got to kill him, or whatever. They got to, they chase him, and then he ends up doing his best sculpture of his career.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, now that you explain it to me like that, I can get along with it. That when I was rewatching it last night, I was like, why are they chasing after him?
And why did they turn so suddenly? I mean, I think that's the thing, because it just happened so quickly.
Yeah, and now I can see that now. There are to believe, even though they've been pretentious the whole movie, they can't believe that someone else can be worse or better than them at it.
Well, he lied to him, basically. I mean, it's a betrayal of some sort, because he's passing this off as actual art. And it was like, I mean, these guys are like looking at stuff like frying pans and stuff like that. Oh, that's beautiful art. That, and then that's the whole ridiculousness of it. I've read some treatises and stuff on, who's the one that determines what's good art or not. You've got these people that are art critics when it comes to paintings and sculptures and stuff like that, who say, "Oh, this is brilliant." And, okay, who appointed them? The people that decided that, and you get thinking about it, it's like, yeah, I mean, and so you've got this whole culture that are saying this is great art. Of course, everybody's going along with them because they're saying it's great art, so it must be. And I want to be like them. So, and that's the whole hypocrisy of this, of these kind of movements. Was that they thought his stuff was brilliant because somebody thought it was brilliant, and they all jumped the bandwagon real quick. Everyone wanted to hang out with Walter because he had such brilliant ideas.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they do. He'd sit down in his little outfit, and everyone came to him.
Yeah,
his table.
But it's interesting that Carla, when everybody turns on him, Carla's disappointed, a little shocked at what she discovers, but she still tries to protect him. When they're all, I mean, she runs after him too, but not to hurt him, but to try to get there before they hurt him.
Yeah,
she's still that kind of a person. He's a human being. She doesn't want to see him hurt. So I mean, it says a lot about her character as well.
Well, she's chasing after him not because she was betrayed and fake about being a beatnik.
Right.
She has even though she loved his artwork originally, she's literally the only sympathetic character in the whole movie, and I guess
she always genuinely liked the guy. Yeah, I mean, so
and was able to respect him as an artist, whereas
Absolutely.
everyone else couldn't.
Yeah.
Especially his boss.
Anthony Carbone is the actor's name, and he was in a lot of Corman films playing Leonard DeSantis. He owns the coffee shop. Yeah.
Which he's a film, the character in the film who is greedy.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Opportunity.
He's the sellout
for the man, but money,
Yeah.
even back then, his greed is what keeps everything in check.
Yeah, and he discovers Walter's secret very early on.
Very early.
When the cat falls off the table when no one's there, and he sees, whoa, there's fur under this thing.
Yeah.
But he knows there's money to be made, so let's just keep it under the wraps.
Even though
he's got Julian Bond's character, or not Julian Bond, but Julia Burton's character, Maxwell. No, it wasn't Maxwell. It was another guy that's in a lot of Corman films, and I lost his name here. Offering him $500 because the wife just has to have it.
Yeah.
Oh, you can see the dollar signs in his eyes. It's like, yeah, okay, Walter, we'll overlook this now.
Yeah.
Although he's a little shocked when the second one is a full-fledged man, the Bert Convy, and it's like, whoa, wait a minute here. You can tell he's a little, whoa, what am I getting myself into here? But he still sees money, so.
Well, yeah, and I'm a little surprised that no one noticed who he was, since this undercover cop has been coming to this little bar for God knows how long. We kind of get the Alice thing. He says that Alice modeled for him, so he's kind of done Alice. But yeah, it was like, well, no one notices this is the cop that been coming to the bars and beating God knows how long. Okay.
Now, if you haven't seen this and you go watch for the first time, you're going to see another familiar face in there. If you're into old TV shows, guy by the name of Ed Nelson, who made his fame on Peyton Place and a lot of early television of the '60s. He plays one of those guys that's always high. It's hilarious.
Those two actually I find very hilarious now.
Oh, they're hysterical. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you all, if you're listening to this. I actually found this movie to be much more entertaining than, like I said, when I originally saw it. Because when I originally saw it, I don't think I really got all the beatnik culture and the different types of characters. Because I wasn't watching it for that aspect.
Yeah.
But watching it now, I think this was my third or fourth time watching it. With a critical eye, mind you, but also with an eye to be entertained.
Yes,
I picked up on a lot more stuff that I didn't before. It's a testament to how much I believe this film is actually still a really good film, even for today's audiences. So.
Yeah, for a film that was shot in 5 days, I mean, it was like, it's amazing. But even Dick said, the acting in this was good. He said he praised the writing. He loved Griffith's script. I just wish they could have had more money so they could have done more with some of the effects and stuff. Because the effects are cheesy. The people covered in the clay because they had to use. Well, he said we had to use mannequins for the statues, and then cover the mannequins in clay. He says, I really wish we could have done more, and with money we could have.
Well, Dead Cat looks very, very, very simple, but you get to
did you notice when he pulled it out of the wall, it was already stiff, like from rigor mortis. It's like, wait a minute, you just killed it.
I didn't know this.
It wouldn't be stiff like that. So it's like, okay, but that's a giveaway. But yeah, they couldn't afford to do it the real way, so.
Oh my God, Roger Corman. So, for all you listening out there, we're still huge Roger Corman fans.
Oh, absolutely.
We here at Conversations of Horror love to pick on Roger Corman, especially after we did a whole month of his films. But we also recognize that Roger Corman had a profound effect not only on the industry but on a lot of talent within the industry. There are a ton of people
the directors alone that he launched.
Yeah, and these people wouldn't be anywhere where they were if they had low budget, 5-day movies.
Yeah,
with almost that was more creativity than actually anything else.
Yeah.
When you watch A Bucket of Blood, it almost all takes place within two locations: the bar / cafe and Walter Paisley's apartment. That's
That's
is
it. Yeah.
majority of this entire movie,
Just keep it simple.
and it works. It works.
Like you said, he used what they gave him. The sets from that other movie. So Roger was really good at reusing stuff.
Yeah, he was. And now I need to go back and watch all of his non-horror films. I think I've seen a lot of them. Don't get me wrong. I've seen a lot of them randomly because they're on like every freaking collection of public domain movies out there.
Yeah.
It is really easy to watch some of these movies of his that he did early on. But I've got a ton of them as well that I have yet to watch. The nurse cycle of movies that he did. The prison, the women in prison movies.
Right. He got into all kinds of exploitation films. Yeah. All drive-in stuff. I mean, his stuff went straight to the drive-ins.
Yeah. So
or to the B-style theaters that I talk about a lot on Monster Attack. Every city, for the most part, had a big theater. They got all the first releases, and then they had a little theater around the corner or nearby in the downtown area that sat, maybe 100 or 150 people that got all of the B-style pictures that would come through. So.
Now I do have to ask, have you done this one for Monster Attacks?
Yeah, we did it a while back, and maybe one we'll come back and revisit again. We did our Roger Corman retrospective at the Monsterama convention back in August because we thought, okay, it was a few months after he died, and so we want this to be Corman, and we also a lot of what we did at Monsterama was centered around Roger Corman. In addition to our normal theme. So, I mean, he was such an influence. Incredible. I mean, just incredible. The amount of work, and he never lost any money except for one film. And I can't remember the name of it now, but he actually lost money on. All of his films made a substantial profit. So he got into he knew what people wanted to see at the time that he released. I think that was the genius behind Roger Corman. Was you just had a feel for what would work with folks.
Well,
that's a real talent. Yeah.
Fast, and he always went with trends and everything else, and faster than everyone else.
Yeah.
Which is a testament to his producer.
Oh yeah, we were talking about. I forgot how it came up in the discussion on one of our shows not too long ago, where I mentioned my. Oh, no, it was at the Monsterama thing because the theme was centered around dinosaurs and prehistoric stuff because it was not Land Time Forgot, but it was when dinosaurs ruled the earth. And we had some of the actors from that, Elizabeth Shepard and others. And they had the Monster Attack panel, and I thought we would decide what our project or what our panel was going to be. And so we were all going to do Roger Corman, and then all of a sudden they advertised it as, dinosaurs that we all love. And it was like, wait a minute. So in order to get around that, I told everybody, I said, I'm going to open up, just follow my lead. I said, okay, we'll talk about dinosaurs we loved. I loved Carnosaur. Oh, by the way, that was produced and directed by Roger Corman. And while we're on the subject, let's talk about Roger Corman. And I do. I love Carnosaur, as chintzy and cheesy as it is.
So do I.
He reused that dinosaur so many times in other movies. It was not funny, but
oh my God,
that is a classic film that I will probably. I might even talk about it on Monster Attack down the road if we ever get up into the 90s. Which we're doing the 80s films right now. We're doing some 80s films here and there.
Are you really?
Yeah.
If you don't get to it, I am definitely going to put it on our list for this.
Okay, I'm writing this one down because I don't want to. I missed you on one that I know that you loved, or I didn't know. I should have known you loved, and I hadn't written it down. So I'm going to write this one. I forgot what it was. It was one that I did. It was like, Kevin should have said him with us on that one.
You know what? You could have me on your show anytime. I kind of missed the fact that the one show we did, which was live, it kind of is lost. So we.
I don't think we recorded that one. Yeah,
we recorded it, but remember, all the stuff on that drive was corrupted, and so.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
it was so much fun doing that, being a guest host on your
Well,
show.
think about an '80s movie that not a slasher film. We don't do slasher films.
No, you don't do slasher movies.
Although I have got one coming up. Your folks are going to know it's first. Well, I don't know when you're going to release this one, so but
This
one of our
month?
next ones coming up is Halloween 3, because it's not a slasher film.
You are not doing Halloween 3.
Oh, absolutely.
You know I just did Halloween 3, right?
Oh, did you? Okay, I didn't realize that. Okay. But I know a lot of my listeners are going to say, "Wait a minute, I didn't think we were going to do slasher films." It's like it's not a slasher film. That's why I'm doing it. So one reason I love it is because it had nothing to do with Halloween, with the movie Halloween. Because
it has the impression of starting off like a slasher movie, but then it goes off that completely.
Yes. Well, and again, we're getting on. Kevin and I always get off on tangents, but that's what makes it so much fun. Carpenter didn't want to do a Michael Myers franchise.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to do a Halloween franchise, and after the first one, that was going to be it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, Universal comes back and says, "Hey, this was good. Let's do." It was the top-grossing independent film of the year, and it stayed like the top-grossing independent of all time up until I forgot what knocked it out of that slot, but it's still one of the most successful independent films ever made for the money and the profit it made. They said, "We want another one." Of course, this is Universal. It's like, hey, let's get some. So they made him, do part 2, which is basically picks up where the first one leaves off. And of course, those of you that have seen that, if you remember, Michael and Dr. Loomis really sort of get nailed in that one. Major explosion, fire. No one could survive that. And Carpenter was sort of like, okay, done. Now I can go do what I was going to, because he wanted to do other Halloween sequels, but he wanted them to all be different.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of almost like an anthology type deal. So 3 comes out, totally different. So that's more like in line of what he wanted to do, but it didn't do very well because everyone's like, "Where's Michael? Michael should be in this." It's like, but I remember when I saw it for the first time, it was like, I love this.
Yeah.
I love this. I mean, it's just like, nothing against Michael, but it's like, it was so unique.
It was.
So,
that's gonna be interesting to see on your show. Okay.
Yeah. That will be coming out a week from Monday. Of course, people listening to this one don't know what I'm talking about, but
no, this episode I believe will come out in next week or the week after. I kind of have.
Oh, okay. Well, it'll be close.
Yeah, because we're shooting all these to be released during Halloween. So everyone listening,
we're doing the same thing. We're doing like Halloween oriented type films. We did. Well, we sort of kicked it off early with Son of Frankenstein because it was a tie-in with the Silver Screen Spook Show, and then Children of the Corn premiered this evening. We did that one tonight. That's about the grittiest one I've done for a while, and then it'll be Halloween 3, and we're still keeping the others secret right now. So yeah. But Halloween 3 is scheduled for the 14th.
So everyone listening, our Halloween 3 episode started the month off, and then once you listen to that, you can come back to Monster Attacks.
I'll have to listen to yours so I can say, "Kevin, you got it all wrong, man." No.
Well, it was me and my special guest Dave Watkins.
Dave, okay.
We were delving deep into Season of the Witch, and then of course later this month for Conversation of the Horror, we hope to delve deeper into some of the other Halloween franchises, because we also did Rob Zombie's Halloween already,
which I wasn't a fan of. Because I've told people that for a couple of reasons. Nothing against Rob Zombie. I would have loved to have worked with him. I had originally been cast in Halloween 2, but then they changed, and then I don't know, Rob got mad at someone or something and changed the whole thing, and so the character I was going to play ended up being just a voice off screen. So they could have had me do it. I would have done it. I just wanted to meet Malcolm McDowell.
Well, everyone out there, we love Halloween here at both of our shows. It's always unique.
I do too. Yeah.
Well, that's what I said. Both of our shows.
Yeah.
And so the thing is, it's always a treat for me and Jim to get together because we both have different podcasts, and
that's true.
always talking about classic horror movies. Sometimes you talk about more modern ones, but that's very rare.
Well, think about some '80s ones you like that aren't slasher films, and
You tell me what you want to do because you forget. I grew up in the '80s, so
I
I've seen
know that's what I'm
all of
thinking.
them.
So there should be a bunch
Like
there.
I've
Yeah,
literally seen almost.
I need to bring you in on some of our '80s. So I should have called you for Children of the Corn.
Oh yeah, I love that movie, dude.
I had not seen that. I'd forgotten how long it had been. I'd seen that movie, and I forgot. Damn, I really did like that movie. I really, really did like that movie.
Well, I saw the remake at the theater. I was the only person that didn't see it in the like 2 theaters it was in.
I read Night Shift and read the short story in Night Shift, and it was one of the few times I saw something that was adapted from King that I actually liked, because so many times the film versions ruined his stuff. So yeah, okay, yeah.
Well,
I'll call you next time.
Any final thoughts, Jim, on A Bucket of Blood? We've come really weirdly on.
I wish I could have been old enough. There was apparently a chain of theaters that when they booked A Bucket of Blood, they did a marketing campaign that said anyone who shows up to the theater with a bucket of blood will get a free admission. I don't know if anyone took them up on it. I hope not. I mean, I could see someone doing stage blood or something phony,
42nd Street.
Yeah, that was just I did not know that until I was pouring through one of my books the other day, getting ready for this podcast. It was like, I didn't know that. Geez, that's sort of cool. But
oh my God.
Well, that's back in the day. This is 1959. They you got William Castle going nuts doing his stuff, and there was always gimmicks going on in theaters when it came to horror. Nobody took horror seriously.
No,
in the film industry, yeah.
Nah. But you just bring up someone else we're gonna have to add to our list, which is William Castle, because I don't think we've done a single William Castle movie.
Oh man, oh no, you need to do William Castle films.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, they are such classic films. So and then, of course, he did one legitimate one that he won an Academy Award for, Rosemary's Baby. He produced that film, so he could do the big stuff too.
So everyone, so everyone out there, if you're listening to this, make sure to tell us what Roger Corman or William Castle movies you would love for us to talk about, because we are always looking forward to expanding our list of films. Where even if it is really old, even if it's really new,
which is okay because they got a really, really old co-host that can sit in for those films. So,
or even if it's really, really bad, who
are you gonna call?
We haven't put Ghostbusters on the list yet.
No, we did Ghostbusters a couple of weeks ago. That was part of our Halloween expose or whatever.
Oh my God!
That was week before last. So. Who are you going to call?
All right, Jim, I want to thank you for joining us today on Talking About Bucket of Blood. I'm going to have to bring some more old school movies up for us to talk about. Yeah. Everyone out there, I hope you've been enjoying this conversation, whether it was really about A Bucket of Blood or one of the random tangents that me and Jim always go off.
That's right.
Make sure to check out his show, Monster Attacks, on your finest podcast apps out there.
You find it anywhere. Yeah, we're on all of the servers. Yeah.
Yeah, he's been out for how many
Monster years? Attack with the exclamation point. So,
how many years has Monster Attack been on?
We're in our 9th season right now.
Our
9th year. Season. Yeah, well, yeah. So we've been gone about 8.5 years now. Started in 2016.
Covered a lot of great classic movies and probably some that are not so classic. So check his podcast out, and then make sure to check out some of the other episodes that we both have this Halloween season, because you can never have too many great horror films to watch during the Halloween and October season. I want to thank you all for joining us for Conversation in Horror. Make sure to like, subscribe, do all the things that you people out there do. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a good evening/day. Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, produced by Kevin L. Powers, executive produced by Kelly A. Inoka, and originally filmed via Zoom technology. Conversations in Horror is hosted by Kevin L. Powers and co-hosted by various horror film lovers and filmmakers. To learn more about Mr. Powers, please make sure to check out his Patreon page and other social media platforms. Conversations in Horror is copyright 2024 Broken Lighthouse Pictures production.